Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Mortgage Matters in Minutes. Again, I'm your host, Brent Rasmussen, owner of Mortgage Specialists. So today we are going to be re-recording an older episode just because we've had additional questions, and sometimes we go back and revisit some topics that need to be recovered, added on, or just explained a little bit differently. So today we're going to talk about what is an earnest deposit. And a lot of people use different words for this. ED is an abbreviation sometimes, or sometimes people use the word down payment. That's not really it, but what is an earnest deposit? So let's first talk about what that means and where are the scenarios that come up with earnest deposits. So an earnest deposit basically is a money or check written by a buyer once a home contract is accepted or a purchase contract is accepted. And why is it called earnest deposit? Well, earnest deposit is put out there just to be held in place so that the buyer doesn't get cold feet and choose to back out halfway through or 5-6 weeks into the transaction. And if they back out for no reason or no legal reason, the seller can keep their earnest deposit money. So it's money put up to show the seller, hey, I'm very interested in this property. I really want to buy this property and I have skin in the game, or I have money in this transaction to make this happen. A lot of buyers aren't aware that you do need to write a check right away after that offer is put in place. And there's all different amounts that can be written for this earnest deposit check. It can be $500, $1,000, $10,000, $50,000, but generally speaking, anywhere from that 0.5% to 1% is fairly normal. And obviously, the more you put up, the more serious you are about the house. So that is a negotiation tool that you can use to show the seller, hey, I'm much more serious and interested than other offers that you're interested in. Throughout time, we've seen earnest deposits for the full price of the home. We've seen $0 earnest deposits and everything in between. So that's really up to you and your realtor to talk about that when you put an offer in the seller, showing when you give a $500 earnest deposit or a $5,000 earnest deposit, those are different and those mean different things to the seller. And you're telling them about you already moving forward, saying, hey, am I a strong buyer that has access to money? Or am I really scrounging up everything I possibly have? And if anything goes wrong, there could be a chance that I back out of this transaction and move forward. So people don't quite understand the earnest deposit, and that's why we're talking about it today. But once you write that check, it's written to the title company. It's written to a third party that's neutral, and their goal is to hold that money all the way till closing. Obviously, if there's no problems and you get to closing, you are then able to use that money towards the money that you need for your down payment, your closing costs, your taxes and insurance, your prepaids, all the above. So while the check does get cashed and held by the title company, it's not getting used right away. It's sitting in a kind of like a savings account, but the title company called an escrow account. It's sitting there and waiting for the transaction to close. Why is it sitting with the title company? Because they are neutral. So if there is a lawsuit, a buyer or a seller can't quickly get access to that money without proof from the courts that it goes to this person or it goes to that person. That only happens in a really difficult real estate transaction or a dispute in a real estate transaction. Here locally, I can tell you that very rarely happens. But does it happen? Sure. There are issues that arise that people use that against each other to get what they want, buyer and seller. But again, you as a buyer get to decide how much you want to put up. You and your realtor that are working together gets to write in that contract how much that you want to put for an earnest deposit. Sometimes sellers will say, we want you to put down more. And generally, I've never seen a seller say go lower, but you as the buyer can decide to start at the lowest number that you want. Again, the last caveat of the earnest deposit that we sometimes see in the lending side with problems is that the earnest deposit money must come from the borrower or the buyer of the home. So let's say you are a first-time home buyer and you don't have the $5,000, but your parents are going to give you a gift. If your parents write a check directly to the title company, we can't use that for lending purposes. You'll get the $5,000 check back, or I should say the parents will get their $5,000 check back, but we can't credit something at the closing table that involves someone that's not inside the real estate transaction. So if you are writing an earnest deposit check, make sure that you're writing it from your account. If the parents are given money, we don't love to see this, but if it comes through your account, we have to validate it. But make sure the check is coming from whoever the borrower or the buyer of the home is, because those are the amounts that can be used. Again, it's a legal binding transaction. And in that legal binding transaction, we must use monies coming from the legal binding parties. I hope that allows you to understand a little bit more about earnest deposits, when they come into play on purchase transactions, the general sometimes amounts, why they're needed, and how you would go about getting those checks written to the title company to be able to close your purchase transaction. So if you have any additional questions, reach out to us at any time at 402-991-5153, or we're just a email away at brent@mtg-specialist.com, or you can check us out on our website at mtg-specialist.com. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great one. Mortgage Specialists. Driven, trusted, reliable.